fastest growing city in the nation. And while some may be compelled to keep people out of the forest because of the density, we aren't going to have the next generation of conservationists and forest stewards from urban populations if they do not have access. And access and recreation together really do drive the drive conservation and stewardship from a heart place for these kids. And we're seeing it monthly. I mean, every month we're out there, and we see the lights come on in these kids' eyes. They're getting it. They're getting their hands dirty in the soil in their own backyard, and that's powerful. It really is. It may seem trite, or even like just a light story, but the significance of those experiences for these young people will last a lifetime. And yeah, the volunteer support for this shows that.
So the next few slides I pulled from Johnson Sutherland's presentation to the project advisory team. It was a great presentation. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we're trying to accomplish also with the project and with the trails. One of them is getting kids to school safely. You can see in the yellow blob, it's New Rainier Vista, and that is an extremely dense community, and the children and youth in that community go to Kimball Elementary.
This is New Rainier Vista.
And show her Mountain View, point out Mountain View.
And Mountain View is down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the main forest is up here, and Kimball Elementary is right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where children who live in New Rainier Vista, they're assigned to Kimball Elementary, and in fact, children from down south of here are also assigned to Kimball Elementary School.
Where is Mercer on that map? Mercer Middle School?
Mercer is
Behind the
up
VA.
here.
West, behind the, up by the VA.
We can't.
It's not in the picture. It's above the
Oh,
VA.
right. Yeah, up there.
But it's right off the map, is that correct?
It's just off the map. Yeah, it's just right on the other side of the VA.
Could you please designate north?
North is this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it east or is it northeast on that map? I couldn't tell by the way you were pointing.
Yeah, it's
West.
north is towards the door, west is towards the ceiling, east is the floor, and south is going out that way.
Okay, so north is on the right side of that map.
Correct.
Okay.
And so the orange lines show the current walking routes for kids to get to school from Rainier Vista. They have to go way up South Columbian Way. Can you point to that, Susan?
Yeah, they can either go up this way,
Way around the golf course
across and
to
down.
Kimball, or they take MLK Junior Way, and then there's a dotted line.
Now, my daughter went to Kimball, and so I'm just going to tell you that this street right here is a narrow, curvy, pothole street where cars come racing through it. I wouldn't advise anyone to ever walk or ride their child on a bike up that road. It is absolutely unsafe.
And Johnson Sutherland looked at neighborhood connectivity between Beacon Hill and Columbia City among, other neighborhoods in the area like Mount Baker, but I just chose to pull this one out because it shows how the Beacon Hill residents getting to Columbia City have to again take these unsafe routes and roads to get to Columbia City, and Columbia City residents getting to Beacon Hill.
And this is the pedestrian via walking.
Yeah, this is pedestrian. Yes.
Right, for the pedestrian movement. It's not intuitive. It's not direct. And we know that if you do not have an intuitive, direct route to walk, you're likely not going to take it, and you're going to get in your car and drive. And this area has a high potential to continue to increase its walkability, bikeability, and you have this green space that can absolutely participate in that sort of neighborhood connectivity.
And these connections show some of the proposed pedestrian connections in Cheesty that would be more natural routes for people to take in terms of pedestrian paths. Yes?
I don't see Cheesty, Maine on the map. Where is
Can
it?
you?
This right here is Cheesty, Maine.
Yeah, all the
This
way
is-
up to the
This
right.
is that big
Orange.
part that's on your map. And this is where it narrows down up here at the top.
So a comprehensive trail system would allow for that connectivity for communities. It would allow for safe routes to school. It would allow for
Poorly labeled.
easier access to nature. And it's something that really excites our community, and people absolutely want to see that sort of connection through this forest.
And here's the current project advisory team trail design. Again, we're through 3 out of 5 meetings. This is not final, but this is what's being reviewed at this point. There's currently one, it's hard to see on the screen, but there's one mountain bike loop trail and there's one pedestrian trail, basically going from south to north. Actually, there's 2, and there's one going east to west. But it's not providing any of those connector trails that were proposed by Johnson Sutherland. We've also been hearing from the community about these connection trails through community. Parks had a community outreach meeting. Their support behind a comprehensive trails plan and what we currently have in front of us is not really satisfactory. It's an unsafe trail. There are no outlets. There really aren't any opportunities for the mountain biking community to progress in terms of trail design, and the pedestrian trails really don't satisfy.
Yeah, and I think, again, the comprehensive trail plan that we have always desired is lacking with this current PAT trail design. We are grateful that the conversation is leading us in this point, but based on the fact that green spaces throughout the city do have interior trails, do have trails that connect, we feel that there's been some backwards movement in saying that interior trails aren't appropriate in this space. Best design practices for both pedestrian trails as well as international mountain biking standards for trail design for mountain biking would not jeopardize landscape or ecological health. And so
I don't quite understand what you're saying in terms of inadequate. I mean, you're talking about the more
it's the connection. We're missing the connection, and I think that that's where this trail is. Well, as a woman, see, I would not put myself on a 1.5 mile loop trail without very little access to leave a trail or move off of a trail or have a shorter loop. And knowing that this board had recommended that there would be no interior trails, we are wanting to show you that the results of that design has kind of an effect on the community's desire to have more of a comprehensive plan.
And the wording, Mary, that I recall was, we had those other images from before, but initially there was one with a lot of interior loops. I don't remember I don't remember the jump from from a lot to none. Because there's none.
There's none.
There are none. And this next slide really.
Maybe that one might be helpful, just to give one scenario, because
What, to go
we're not
back?
familiar with that map. Just say, like, if somebody got on the trail here, what would they do on their bike, and how would they get on and off? Because if you get on your bike at any of the entrance points or if you're walking, basically commit to a full loop, or there's some exit. So your exit on the road.
It's approximately 1.5 miles around this orange loop.
Okay.
So this is the top of the hill, this is the bottom of the hill. So you would enter the trail on the top, and then you ride the trail all the way around. And you have to go all the way down here, and then traverse back, and then climb back up to the top. So there aren't shorter loops. So as a dad, I wouldn't set my kid down this trail. because I don't know if I'd ever see him again. There needs to be other options for other skill levels. So this is one experience, and it's pretty one-dimensional in terms of the design. There are no bike trails coming down. There are no connector trails. This is where one of the connector trails that Johnson Sutherland put on the map. Makes a ton of sense to have this community be able to go right over to school, right over here, and avoid going all the way around.
So if our goal is to provide opportunities for children to build a connection with this forest, then this trail is inadequate to meet that goal. We want children to love this forest. We want them to have fun in this forest. We want them to have an opportunity to ride for a little while and then hop off their bike and then dig in the dirt and find some earthworms, because that's how children learn to love nature. This map that we're looking at right now is a great start, and we want to build on that. But we, as a community organization that is trying to build a connection between nature and our community, we find this to be inadequate to meet our goals.
Could you say what intervention would be adequate? Like, so I'm looking at a mile and a quarter. It's so, and what is the distance, not the track distance, but just the birds fly distance? Is that like a half mile? From there to there?
There's a scale down the left.
Where is
I'm
there?
gonna read it, yeah.
There is a scale right here.
One inch is,
I can't
is
quite
it
read it.
8 feet?
I'm gonna guess it's approximately a mile.
I'd say half
Right
to
away,
3/4 of a
60
mile.
feet, so.
So where, if you were going to have an adequate, what would it be?
Yeah, it would be additional connecting trails between them.
No, specifically, give us some. Like, is
Okay.
it 1?
Okay.
Is it 10? What is it?
It
I
would be.
don't think a number is.
Well, I mean, I think
No, I
that's
think
right.
that's a valid question, because
Yeah.
when you say that, I mean, I understand the child getting on, for anybody getting on trail and not being able to get off, but there are exit points to a road. So, and I understand the up and down, but what would make it?
So a lot of that will depend on the terrain. The answer is more is better than less. We're foresters, so we don't want to go across the grain of what's going to be the best ecological move for this forest. So we can't say for sure exactly how many we can have.
No, not exactly.
I think
Like,
you're
is it
gonna,
1 to 3? Is it 5 to 10? I mean, it's not, this is a valid thing, because we did write a letter
Yeah.
saying perimeter.
Yeah.
You're kind of asking
Yeah.
us to say,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
could you relook at this? But we need some guidance.
Well, I think a site visit is one, and I think Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, they were the ones who initially came out here to look at this as a viable option for this space. They're the ones who are the experts in Washington on how to make a successful mountain bike trail and mountain bike park in terms of social sustainability, how to build the trails. So before we even proposed this initially, they came out here and hiked through this to make sure that it was viable, and they put together a design that they said this is the minimum viable trail system that will work.
For the mountain bike,
I thought we-
and then we layer that with pedestrian trails as well. So
We had a presentation of that, and there were multiple, that's what, it's like,
I think you're
somebody has
remembering.
an,
Yes.
somebody has this,
Yeah.
and
I
if
mean,
you
it
could
doesn't-
show it to us, that would
I mean,
really
it
help
doesn't
us.
take a lot of thinking to say here where you have pedestrians go in, bikes are gonna go out here, they're gonna go out here, they're gonna go out where there are exit routes. I mean,
Right.
if you have a trail, the thing is that they're gonna make trails because they're not gonna stay on it. So I mean, that's what you're gonna have happen.
And that's what we want to get in front of them, because we want it to be successful. So if you create the trail and you make it a sustainable trail and you make it fun, people will use it instead of trying to
And the
make it
question
their
is
own.
if the neighbors biking someplace and going on this trail and getting off, are they gonna ride their bikes to school, going through part of this? I mean, how is it
I
going
would
to?
think so.
Very
Versus people
possibly.
driving in a car with a bicycle and a rack in the back and parking to use this trail somewhere, which there isn't really a lot of parking space.
Yeah. One thing that I think is good for everybody to know is that what we're looking at is about a 28 to 30 acre parcel. So in terms of really cool mountain bike parks, this is not it. How many acres is Doobie?
I think it's over 100.
Okay, and then there's this St. Edward's Park. There are multiple super cool mountain bike parks that people who load their mountain bikes up onto the back of their car and drive to are gonna go to. This park is mostly designed, it's gonna mostly draw local families. Once people load their bike onto the back of their car, they might as well go somewhere super cool. This park is gonna be great, it's not gonna be super cool. It's less than 30 acres of trail.
I think it's easy. But
The sentiment being that people are already saying they don't want to drive to ride. They want to ride to ride, and this will be a park that would allow
This
that.
is not gonna be a destination for the region around Seattle. This is a local park. Yes?
We recommended that any mountain bike trail should be on the perimeter of the green space. And what I cannot see on your map is where the boundaries are.
Can you bring that?
Where are the
up again?
boundaries?
Yeah. So this is the boundary right here.
It's the eastern.
And then this is Cheesty Boulevard, which is the western boundary of the park.
And the southern boundary?
Is right here.
That's Columbia Way.
And so I'm trying to remember for this too, if you could just give me what your thinking has been if someone, even though you said they wouldn't, if someone did drive this because it's the only bike park in
Someone
Seattle,
would, sure.
where would they park?
This whole neighborhood right here is full of working families. So most of their streets are empty during the day.
Jefferson Community Center's parking lot, which is not even an eighth of a mile away from this site, is absolutely available and has ample parking throughout the day and weekends. And this would be a part of that kind of Jefferson Community Park offerings. I mean, it's kind of a network of sorts.
Is that part of the plan to offer that as where people can park?
That would be where we would encourage, absolutely. Pull that and take the train, and, I mean, there's 3 different hopping off points on the light rail. I mean, this is it really kind of becomes an opportunity to bring in like a new urbanist perspective of how recreation is done in the city, in these wooded parklands.
Of how people access forests. Right now, people access forests by driving their SUV over to Issaquah. Here's a 50-acre forest that you can access 2 blocks away from my house and a block away from one of the densest neighborhoods in Seattle.
Peg, I know, Peg, you're not satisfied. You're looking for that map.
I'm sorry,
You're
I'm
looking for that map
not
still.
quite sure what he wanted you to come, and now I'm just like, what? We've had a lot of meetings on Cheesty, and it's one area of the city. It's a big city. So what are we at? What's the purpose of what do you want from us today?
Are we getting to the asking right?
Because that's where it ended the presentation, and I'm kind of I guess I'm not sure what you were asking for.
Well, one was just first to inform you on the project and to show you how the community's really been engaged, in this over the last 8 months, because a lot has happened in Cheesty in terms of community engagement. And I think one of the barriers that we have is this idea that the interior of Cheesty is some sacred place and that it's different and that we can't go in there and that we shouldn't have cross trails in there. Cross trails has become this term that that people are throwing around as some scary thing, and it's really what made Mountain View incredible in terms of transforming the space and connecting the community. And the letter that this group wrote to the city council had basically no interior trails, and it's really prohibitive to making a comprehensive trail system work for the community. And so the ask would be to reconsider that letter, to come take a site visit, and to really look at that from a new lens.
And part of the conflict you're running into, and I had this discussion after one of the last meetings, was the issue of the larger, this is a pilot project. The thing is, within the city, there are a bunch of natural areas. The concern is that suddenly all these natural areas are now going to be subject to, in the future, to bike use, intensive bike use. And the thing is, they were established as green spaces, natural areas with minimal intrusion. And so the question is, you're actually pointing out what part of the problem is, that as you start adding lots of trails, and in fact, I think, as I said, I think you can say there's no exit. There's no way there's not going to be exits from those trails when people, if they do ride bikes there. And so you look at changing the use that people initially got these areas for,